I awoke to hear my aunt moving around in the house. Around 7:15 she came into my room. "I'm going to church now," she announced. "You can get up and lay the table for breakfast. I hope to find everything ready and the kettle boiling by the time I get back at 8:15. Put on some decent clothes. You can't go to church in those filthy things you had on all week. See if you can't find something in the parcel that came yesterday." I heard the back door close, and a few moments later the rattle of her bicycle as she wheeled it under my window from the shed. I got out of bed, put on my dressing gown, went to the bathroom, wet my flannel under the tap, wrung it out, wiped it across my face a few times, and dried myself on the towel. I went to the hall cupboard and carried the parcel into my room. There was no excitement at the prospect of opening it, only a flat sort of curiosity as to what it contained. The idea of wearing my unknown cousin's cast-off clothes produced no joy in me at all. I carefully undid the strings and rolled them into neatly tied loops. String was always useful, and this was good quality cord. I opened the flaps of the big box to release the chemical smell of dry cleaning. At least the clothes had been cleaned. I took the garments out one by one, laid them on my bed and inspected them. Everything was grey. There were 2 grey suits with short trousers. There were 2 other pairs of short grey trousers. There were 6 grey shirts, 3 grey pullovers with V-necks, and 6 pairs of long grey socks. Even the 2 leather belts were grey. The only thing that was not grey was a pair of black shoes, somewhat down at the heel and scuffed at the toe. I held one of the shirts against me. It seemed too big, so I set it aside. Was there a smaller one? I placed them one over the other. They were all the same size, except one that was a bit smaller. I tried it on. It was rather loose around the neck and chest, but the sleeves were right for length. I kept it on. What about the suits? The jackets were too big, and so were the matching trousers. They came down to well below my knees and looked ridiculous. One of the other pairs of trousers was tight between the legs, but otherwise reasonable if I didn't do the belt up too tight. The pullovers fitted where they touched, but were far too long. This didn't show if I tucked them into the trousers. The sleeves were also too long, but I could turn them up. I put on the socks, which were okay, except for incipient holes at the heels. I checked the final result in the mirror. I looked like a kid wearing his big brother's clothes, but I was used to that at the orphanage. It would do. In any case, I didn't have anything much else. What sickened me was the galling humiliation of having to wear an unknown's cast-offs. Rage welled up, and for a moment I felt an overwhelming urge to smash everything in sight. I picked up a vase from the chest of drawers and drew back my arm, ready to hurl it crashing through the window. But would the inevitable punishment be worth the momentary satisfaction? I decided it wouldn't. I put the vase gently back on the chest of drawers, sighed deeply, and went out to lay the table for breakfast. Everything was ready, but only just, when I heard my aunt return to the house. She came briskly in, newly cleansed from sin by her early communion. She took one look at me and gasped, "Couldn't you find anything better in the parcel?" This question did nothing to improve my own estimation of my appearance, nor of the contents of the parcel. I felt on the verge of tears. "It's all too big," I wailed. "Come and see." I led the way into the bedroom and pointed to the garments spread out on the bed. My aunt picked up one of the suit coats, held it against me, and eyed me up and down. She did the same with one of the trousers, then with the other coat. I see what you mean." Hope rose in my heart that she would reject the consignment and propose buying some new clothes. This hope was immediately quenched. "You'll grow to them," she declared with finality. Come and have your breakfast. Quickly now, we've got to be back at church by 10:45 latest. I'm playing the organ for the 11 o'clock service, and then there's the midday dinner still to prepare." At 10 minutes past 10, my aunt sent me off in the direction of the church. She would leave a little later and catch me up on her bicycle. As I went past Roy's house, his mother came out, broom in hand, to sweep the front porch. She greeted me with a big smile. I hoped it wasn't amusement at my appearance. "Hello," she said. "You're looking smart. Off to church this morning?" I nodded, returning her smile. Already the world seemed a better place. "Is Roy coming to church?" "No, we don't go to church. But if you like, you can come round later. Why not come for tea?" "Oh, thank you, Mrs. Rumble, I'd like that. But I don't know yet whether I'll be allowed to." I turned to continue my way. "Hold on a moment," called Mrs. Rumble. "Could you come here a second?" And she beckoned me into the seclusion of the porch. "There's something not quite right at the back." She began to pull at my clothes. She made a fold here, a tuck there, pushing them into my belt. Finally, she held me off at arm's length, turned me right around once with a critical eye on my appearance, and said, "There, that's fixed it. Now you look as though you own $1 million. Off you go and say a prayer for me while you're there." "I will, Mrs. Rumble, I certainly will." And I set off again, feeling I looked like someone wealthy enough to buy the whole village. I arrived at the church before my aunt to discover Winifred standing by the churchyard gate. I was delighted to see her. "Hi, Winnie, going into church?" She nodded. "We're a bit early. There's hardly anybody here yet." "I'm looking out for my aunt," I said. "She's coming on her bicycle. She's going to play the organ." "I know," replied Winnie, and a peculiar expression crossed her face that I couldn't interpret. "Can we sit together?" I asked eagerly. "I'd like to," replied Winnie, "but I can't. I'm in the choir. We sit in the choir stalls up at the front." "Oh," I said, disappointed. "I was in a big choir at the convent. There were about 20 members. Most of them were nuns, but a few of the orphan kids were in it too. It was a good choir. How many are in the choir here?" "Not very many, and those who come are not very regular. Mr. White, the choir master, is always trying to recruit more, but few people seem to be interested." Winnie paused and looked beyond me over my shoulder. "Oh, look, here comes the vicar, and your aunt as well."